The Aopoa way of delivering something alien to the human starfighter market continues with the San'tok.yāi. For the native Xi'an speakers out there, apologies for the terribly Terran pronunciation. Introducing a heavier alternative to the Ka'tu'al, the San'tok.yāi comes in as a surprisingly beefy medium fighter, but also sporting the extraterrestrial thruster layout from other Aopoa craft. So how does it perform in-game today? I'm Forrester, and in this video we'll explore the answer to that question by reviewing the currently flyable Aopoa San'tok.yāi, which is described on the Star Citizen website as a medium fighter. If you've seen other reviews on this channel, then you probably know what to expect, with this video following the usual format. It's split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs before finally summarising. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead. And if you're one of the many people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might consider it, so you can be notified of future Star Citizen videos as they go live. We'll start the tour of the San'tok.yāi by approaching from the back. At the back of the ship there are some buttons which in the future may deploy some component access and storage, but at the moment are inoperable due to some bugs in the current patch. Moving past the engines through to the front of the ship, the big glass canopy is immediately visible. On the left or port side there are another couple of buttons that don't yet work, as well as a button that is used to enter the pilot seat. This drops down a gravlev chair which scoops you up and takes you into the cockpit of the San'tok.yāi. Your garden variety San'tok.yāi comes armed by default with 4 size 3 weapons protruding from the body of the ship. Those default weapons are called Yang 2 laser repeaters, which for all intents and purposes are identical to Panther repeaters, just with a little lower health. Incidentally, that's kind of a feature of the San'tok.yāi, which is that it's very easy to damage or destroy those weapons due to the way they stick out from the hull. The capacitor is reasonable however, and so you get a good few seconds of firing on a target before things dry up. Defensively, the San'tok.yāi carries a size 2 shield generator, which makes it very beefy for a medium fighter. Considering that most medium fighters carry 2 size 1 shield generators, the inclusion of the big size 2 is a huge plus. Out with that, the San'tok.yāi also carries 8 size 2 missiles in a custom launcher, meaning they can only ever be size 2. All in all, that makes this ship a pretty well performing fighter. The armament isn't as heavy as some others, but is heavy enough to be a potent threat, and it's responsive enough to keep on target, whilst also tanky enough to soak a little damage in a melee before having to withdraw. So as a medium fighter, the San'tok.yāi ticks a lot of boxes. Since the cockpit is a huge transparent bubble, visibility is fantastic in every direction you could think of. Moreover, the cockpit is right at the front of the ship, which makes that visibility even more useful. In terms of handling, the San'tok.yāi is alien. It's a bit weird. Most of the power is provided by 4 main thrusters, which have a huge angle of rotation and serve to kick thrust in whichever way it's needed. That's quite different to many other fighters which don't really vector their engines. Instead, the ship rotates and the engines fire. So the San'tok.yāi can pull some unusually responsive strafes when compared to others. But there is also a downside. The rotation of those 4 main engines has some blind spots, meaning the ship is comparatively sluggish to come to a complete halt and doesn't reverse quickly. That's quickly overcome by rotating the ship and just facing a slightly different direction, but that takes some getting used to for us lowly humans. Overall, it makes the ship feel a little skittish. Those problems are exacerbated when coming into land. After toggling the gear, the San'tok.yāi undertakes a transformation which brings the engines into a different position for landing. That's great for VTOL landings, but whenever there's any kind of forward or backward momentum in the mix, it makes the ship very difficult to control. If this YouTube channel had a blooper reel, it could be easily filled with bad landings in the San'tok.yāi, which takes a lot of getting used to. All of that said, the San'tok.yāi is still a relatively quick ship with an SCM speed of 220 meters per second, a generous boost to 480 meters per second, and a top speed in nav mode of 1150 meters per second. That makes the San'tok.yāi quick enough in a fight and quick enough to leave one too. The stock quantum drive is good and a fast military drive, although sadly that does limit the range somewhat, with the San'tok.yāi unable to traverse some of the longer journeys in Stanton with that stock drive. Thankfully, the San'tok.yāi is fairly cheap to run, with rearm, refuel and repair costs usually in the hundreds or low thousands of Alpha UEC. When taking on combat contracts, the fighter is a natural, and in the hands of a skilled pilot can easily cover costs. Somewhat unsurprisingly, with no internal storage space, the San'tok.yāi is largely confined to those combat contracts for generating funds, however. In terms of loadout changes, there isn't a huge need to change much aboard, as the components all come military grade as stock. Probably save your credits. The San'tok.yāi is alien. In keeping with other alien ships, it's weird, unique, and feels suitably different to flying the human fighters. At a superficial level, you get the extraterrestrial aesthetics on the outside and the special quantum drive effect, but more than that, you get something that you can handle very differently, which can be an interesting challenge to overcome. For those of you who like headlamps, the front-facing lights aboard are strong but not blinding, and for those of you who regularly make oopsies, the 7-minute and 30-second reclaim timer isn't too punishing. Whilst the ship performs well in combat and has the big shield generator, the fragility of the outboard weapons is a shame, but overall that can be largely overcome by a skilled pilot. The big challenge, as with many an alien ship, comes with the price tag. The San'tok.yāi comes in at a whopping 9.4 million Alpha UEC, or $240 for real cash. It's not uncommon to hear the phrase alien tax when discussing these ships, and that certainly seems to apply to the San'tok.yāi, which is an expensive beast. Arguably, it's not quite lightning level, but then you also don't get lightning level of combat performance either. So there are just a few other competitors which can do most of what the San'tok.yāi does for less money. Even in the alien category, there's the cheaper Banu Defender, which has an extra seat and some internal space, and comes in a fair bit below the asking price of the San'tok.yāi. But then, the San'tok.yāi does feel great from the cockpit. It's wacky and nimble to fly around, and it does look absolutely fantastic. So, for those people where money is no object, or who are comfortable to spend a few million more Alpha UEC in-game, it could be an interesting choice. But due to that price, it's probably more of a passion purchase for those with larger wallets, rather than a value for money pick. What about you? Would you rather save your funds for something else, or are you a passionate San'tok.yāi fan who thinks that Thari has got this one wrong? I'll be interested to read your opinion in the video comments. If you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to help me understand what videos to make more of in future, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you might like to do that too so that YouTube knows to show you more videos like this in future. But otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.